Hey guys, it's me, the comeback coach, Richard Kaufman. Guys, welcome back to another episode of Vertical Momentum. Guys, this is going to be a fun episode. I get to hang out with some fellow tankers. We call them DATs, dumbass tankers. I get to hang out with them. They're going to come and talk about what they got going on. Their amazing podcast is amazing. I've listened to every episode at least twice. So, guys, welcome to the show. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good, man.
Yeah,
I'm doing good.
doing good, feeling good.
Yeah.
Just
All right. So I'm going to ask you
yeah.
guys individually. Kyle, what is
Yes,
your
sir.
definition of resiliency?
Ooh, right off the bat, huh?
Right off the bat, baby.
Honestly, I mean, actually, we talked about that in one of our earlier episodes. Just being able to kind of bounce back when life throws those things at you that sort of change the direction of your life and just really being able, like I said, pick yourself back up, find yourself the right tribe, the right support group, the right kind of people to be around, and just learn how to really crawl back up from those major downs that life gives people sometimes don't have the resiliency to bounce back from. I guess would be my ultimate
KC, what about
definition
you,
of
brother?
resiliency.
What's your definition of resiliency?
Uh, my definition of resiliency would be never giving up. Yeah, just never giving up and having that self awareness and to check yourself in the mirror and to see where you're at, so you can get yourself back up.
All right. So now we're gonna hop back in the Wayback Machine. As you guys know, I said I'm an OG. I actually went to basic in 1986 at Fort Knox. So I was in the Disney barracks in '86. Agony and misery, all that good stuff.
Oh,
So Disney barracks, all that great stuff. So first, KZ, tell us a little bit about your military story, and then we're going to move over to Kyle. So I want to get to know you guys a little bit better.
yeah. So I joined I'm from South Carolina originally. That's where I'm at right now. But I joined the military in 2007. Went to basic training at Fort Knox, just like you did. Um, Delta Company, and then graduated. Once I graduated basic training, my first unit I went to was the Third Armored Cavalry Regiment, and then which was a state was they were at Fort Hood at the time, and once I got there, as soon as I got there, I was told, "Hey, welcome to 3rd ACR. The unit's downrange. You got 4 weeks. Prep to train. You're going to Iraq." So that was my introduction to what people like to say the real Army, and then so I was in the Army for a total of about nine and a half years. Within that time period, I deployed 4 times, twice to Iraq, twice to Africa. Spent about 4 years in the 30 ACR, and then spent about another 4.5 years with the first ID over in Fort Riley, Kansas. Within my military time frame, I met my wife, had 3 kids, and then after I got out, we had our fourth one. But and then I got out in February 28th, 2015. So that's my military story right
Okay.
there.
Well, I got an important question to ask you because I'm from South Carolina. So I got
Okay.
to
Oh man,
ask Clemson or South Carolina?
Oh no,
oh no.
all my hats are in my closet. So I'm a Carolina Gamecock forever right
All
here.
right.
That's
You can stay on the show then.
all right.
I actually retired out of the South Carolina National Guard
Did
in a
you?
tanker unit.
That's cool, man.
So,
That's
all right.
cool.
So, Kyle, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about your military service.
So I joined out of St. Louis, Missouri. Well, actually North St. Louis County, Florissant, Missouri, and well, I guess May 8th, 2008 was my initial enlistment date. I actually signed a contract before that. Fun fact: if you fail your drug test at MEPS, they make you take 45 days, and they make you start all over. So right there was my first kind of test of resiliency, I guess you could say, because I passed that test, wound up getting to come back and be a tanker, which wasn't available to me at first. And then I wound up actually he said Delta Company. It's funny, I hadn't even put it together until just now, but I was probably the rotation after him in basic training
Yeah.
because we met in Iraq actually. So when I got out of basic, same deal. I went to 3rd ACR at Fort Hood. And they were just like, at that point, it was getting closer to the end of their deployment. So they were taking volunteers who wants to go. Me and a couple buddies that came with me were like, absolutely. And yeah, within, I'd say, so in August, I'd say October, we were boots on ground. Met up with these guys and then stayed in heavy company. I only did another deployment with them. So Operation New Dawn. After that was what we did. So his second deployment was with me as well. And then that's when I actually I got chaptered for again, smoking marijuana. So it's kind of one of my things. I still do it. I'm not ashamed of it, but it wasn't the time or place. But I took my punishment, and at the time the punishment was zero tolerance, and they gave me my DD-214 and sent me on my way, and I was able to keep some benefits in my GI Bill, and was able to bounce back, kind of do some culinary work, do some other stuff, and now I'm a podcaster and hoping to kind of dive into all those stories individually but
All right. So,
sorry, I tend to trail off
oh
sometimes.
no, I mean,
Yeah.
I was at Fort Hood for 2.5 years. I spent so much money downtown at the titty clubs, at the bars. So,
See,
uh,
that's what I mean, man. It's like I got to walk around with like that hat of shame on. Like, I did my 2 tours and I came home and I smoked weed with my now ex, and I'm not ashamed of it. I would do it again if given the chance. I probably would have just drank more water, or taken a piss before PT. I was 2 nanograms over the allotted limit. So I mean, to say that was the first brush with death at that point, as it wasn't, but just the one I got caught with, I guess.
but for me, like, and I'm sure we're going to talk when I come on your show. I'm
Yeah.
probably the only guy you're ever going to know that gets thrown out of the military for being a drug addict, gets back in, and almost gets thrown out again. I've had 8 Article 15s, two field
Dang.
grades, 2 field grades.
I got
But
one,
I
and I'm.
also became an NCO Soldier of the Year. So
Holy
same
cow.
person went from being that shitbag now to becoming a superstar. So
That's resiliency.
yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk about that on your amazing
That's
podcast.
about
But
resiliency right there. That's what I'd say.
That's
now
awesome.
I got hurt on duty. I lost my vision. I lost 80% of my vision, and they medically discharged me after 23 years. Um, and now that I've had this show, I've had many people, a lot of great people come on like yourselves. I've had Navy SEALs, Delta Force, you name them. I've had them on the show, and no matter who they are, once I once they tell me, I got out of the military, um, it seems that we all go through the same shit because, like my friend Sergeant Nick Valentine talks about, when you step off base, the military doesn't give a shit about you anymore. Your phone stops ringing. You miss the
Hmm.
camaraderie. You miss having a mission. And then a lot of us end up like I did, attempting suicide because we don't feel like we have a mission anymore. What were your guys when you guys got out? What was your transitioning like? And we'll start with you, Kyle, and then we'll go to KZ.
I mean, shit. It was a ride. I mean, honestly, I got divorced, and I was getting separated from the army at about during I was going through all that at about the same time. So I mean, it's some major changes in my life that I wasn't prepared for. Um, so I mean, safe to say, when I went home, I wasn't expecting to be there. So I got home, I did a lot of kind of moping around. Definitely a lot of partying, a lot of boozing, falling into kind of some of the old habits again really quick. It was too easy to. Um, Living in a house that, I mean, like we lived there before. It was a house I grew up in, but it just no one had lived there for so long that some of the things that worked, they stopped working, and it didn't matter because it was free. My dad wasn't charging me to stay there. He lived in the area, so he was always there to kind of help me out. which I'll always appreciate more than I can ever tell him. Because honestly, like without him during that time, I probably wouldn't be here myself. And then just like so I mean, it was hard, dude. It was. I didn't know it at the time how hard it was until I kind of got away from it, and then I had a buddy who actually recently passed away from suicide. Not an army buddy, but a friend of mine from that time period. And he was kind of going through some things emotionally and mentally as well. And we used to talk about the stuff quite a bit. And he, like, one of the last messages he texted me is after I had met my now wife, and who I've been married close to, well, coming up on 3 years. We got almost, oh well, shit, I don't even remember now. Not long enough, but anyways, yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. Yeah, no, the last message he sent me was how proud he was, of like how I was able to kind of get out and get away from myself and that kind of situation. And I think about 2 days later, his sister had messaged me that he killed himself, and this was right after a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, had done the same thing. So I mean, the hard times, they didn't stop coming, and they really don't. But it's all about kind of learning how to accept them, learning how to be resilient. I mean, it's like one of my favorite words. That's all. I mean, it seems to be yours too, with the name of the podcast. So, I mean, resiliency is kind of what always gets me through. So yeah, it was a tough transition, and I'd say some days it's still a tough transition, even almost 12 years later. But which is weird to say because I only did 4 years in the military, but it made such an impact. So yeah, that's my little spiel for now.
All right, Casey. So, what was your transitioning like?
My transition for the first half of it, I think when we're in the military, we hear that phrase a lot: "Fake it till you make it." That's kind of what I did when I got out. I got out and I was hit with the reality of what civilian world was like. It financially crushed me, emotionally crushed me, but social media. I kept a smile on my face for social media, but at home it was a wreck. My wife was picking me up every day. At that point in time, it was my wife and I and our 3 kids. And I thought I could just get out there in the civilian world and just tackle it, and just because on paper anyway, when I looked at other people doing it, it's like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. But I was I was severely mistaken. So working, I found myself working 3 months at a job, and then not being there anymore, not getting fired, but just getting really bored. I didn't have a purpose, and that was, looking back now, hindsight 2020, I think that was my biggest problem, not having purpose in my life after the military. And I think that's what's the major problem with a lot of veterans when they get out. They lose that purpose, and that was mine for sure. So I got out in 2015. It's now 2020. It's 23 now. It wasn't until about 3 years ago when I found that purpose. So it was very, very hard for me to bounce back financially, emotionally. And like Kyle said, there's still tough days. There's still days that, I wake up or something happens, there's financial stressors here and there. And I'll catch myself thinking, if you were still in the Army, this wouldn't happen. But, then again, like I said in the beginning, I got to look myself in the mirror. Like, this is the decision you made. No one kicked you out. No one told you to get out. They gave you the option, and you said it was time to go. So, pick myself off the floor. Sometimes I can't pick myself off the floor emotionally, and my wife has to help me, which I'm eternally grateful for. But yeah, it's been for the first 4 or 5 years, it was really up and down roller coaster. But now I think I'm finally starting to level out. And with us talking to veterans every week, not only am I hoping that it helps them out, it really does help me out too. So yeah, that's my journey so far.
Now, I've noticed, because I'll tell my wife, some of my best days ever were in the middle of the desert, 3 a.m., sitting on top of the turret,
Yeah.
looking up at the stars, and just talking shit. And know that my driver, my loader, and my gunner, we were the four horsemen. And whatever got said between us four stayed between us. And we were closer than brothers. We were
Mm.
closer than blood. And then when you no longer have that anymore, a lot of us, we don't talk to anybody anymore. And we keep everything bottled up. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely. Yeah, that was my that's something I had to struggle with, bottling those emotions up. Um, and again, it was it took a toll. It took a toll on my marriage, and it which me and my wife eventually navigated through that, but it took a toll on my relationship with my children the most, and that's kind of what was the eye opener for me was I need to stop balling this stuff up because even though I'm mad at something that I can't control, it's not my children's fault when they're asking. They would come ask me a question and I would just blow up over a simple little question. So yeah, I definitely agree. We have a lot of veterans do tend to bottle that stuff up because of all that.
All right. So before we go any further, because I want to dig a little bit deeper, they call me the GI Joe Rogan, so I kind of like to get deep.
Yeah.
But they call me the male Oprah because sometimes we'll get real deep. But as you guys know, I was with GNC for over 30 years. I was in the Army for 23. And I love pre workouts. I love coffee, but they all tasted like ass. So I decided to come out with my own. I came out with Vertical Momentum Coffee, twice the amount of caffeine, twice the amount of energy, no crash, no shits. So, but the best part is it's 100% hand roasted by veterans' hands, and 100% of the proceeds go to help end veteran homelessness and veteran suicide. So, guys, if you love coffee, write coffee down below and I'll get that information to you. Instead of drinking that other coffee, I'm not going to mention their names. Pick up our coffee because it's actually saving veterans' lives. So, guys, I want to ask you, and I'll start with you first. Um, how does somebody, when you get out of the military, because you guys talked to a lot of guys, just like I have, guys and girls, how do you find a mission again? For me, it was a meeting with Gary Vaynerchuk when I had lunch with Gary V. Started everything. But so talk to me about how do you guys go about finding a new mission? And we'll Kyle, we'll start with you.
Well, shit. I mean, this mission kind of came about itself, I guess. But I mean, I would just say, just speaking from experience on how, like, we'll just speak on our mission, Veteran Chat Project, for a bit. How it kind of came to fruition is it was in a group text we had with some Army buddies of ours, and one buddy kind of brought it up in passing a while back, and he's been kind of busy going through some things and never really had time to dive into it. One day, KZ here mentioned it. He's like, "Man, let's pick this thing up," because he works with vets every day. He wants to really start making this change, because he sees where it's needed, basically. Um, so me being me, I'm like, yeah, you want to do something, let's do it. Like, I got your back. We're gonna run through it. We're gonna do it. And that mission, it became super clear as soon as we did our, like, sat down. I was like, what are we gonna talk about? It's like veteran mental health. Like, like there's not enough people willing to sit down and talk about just being like, I had a shitty day. I feel like today, I let emotions win, or today I let intrusive thoughts beat me, or whatever the fucking case is. It's just important to if you feel it, to go out there and try to inspire change in people, even if that, like, I don't know, like, even if it's something that you'll never see or know about, but if just someone hearing a story that might have made them feel not alone. For me, I think I heard Shia LaBeouf talking on Real Ones podcast with John Bernthal. I like to mention him every time I'm on a podcast because I want to be on it one day. Um, but basically just the way he kind of overturned the shit he had been through and kind of turned towards living a life of service and just being of value to other people. Sometimes the mission finds you. Sometimes you got to find the mission. For me personally, this has become the mission outside of obviously my family, which will always be my first mission. But other than that, that's kind of my spiel. Again, I'll stop saying that.
AZ?
How do you find your mission after the military service? So for me, it was finding purpose. It took a while to find that purpose, but it was finding that purpose because that purpose usually in a mission brief. That's usually the first step is purpose in your mission brief. So finding that purpose for me was key to finding my life mission. And I sat down and tried to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and my calling was serving others. So first and foremost, the first thing I wanted to do is I want to serve others. So I want to try to help veterans out as much as I can. So I was naive at the time, and I thought I could change the VA. So I went to nursing school. I went to nursing school with the hopes of working at a VA hospital and making a change. That was my mission. I was going to do that. That was it. But that didn't work out. Finished nursing school, did some stuff. That didn't work out. And then, this job fell into my lap. Fortunately, where now I get to talk to veterans every day at work. If I'm working from home, I'm talking to them on the phone. If I'm at the clinic, I get to talk to them at the clinic. Usually it's every veteran. I don't want to say every veteran. A lot of veterans have white coat syndrome. No one likes going to the doctor, especially when they're going to the doctor for their compensation pension exams, which is what my company does. So, sitting down with veterans and, hearing them kind of a little bit standoffish at first. And then once I mentioned, like, what'd you do? It's like, I was in the Army. It's like, hey, me too. As it feels like that curtain just drops a little bit. And, the tension eases a little bit. We start talking shop just like we're doing now. And then before they know it, they're a little bit easier to talk to when they're in the doctor's office. So my mission, finding, to answer your initial question of how do you find your mission after the military service, you got to find that purpose. I think it's the second time I've talked about it, but yeah, you got to find your purpose in life, because that is your driving force with what you're going to do.
Okay, now for me, 9/11 totally changed my life. Like I said, we were talking earlier with Kyle. If I go stand on my front porch, I'm actually overlooking where the Twin Towers once stood. So we actually sit in the very close from them. So my whole life changed at 9:08 that morning. But my life really changed like 5 years later when I went to go see the movie with Chris Kyle, and I happened to be the same weekend I had lunch with Gary V, and I actually got a chance to talk to Chris Kyle's wife, and that's why I wear the hat on the show to honor Chris Kyle. And I've been invited to go talk on top 5 podcasts in the world, and they told me I couldn't wear a hat, and I told them, well, I can't do it because in honor of Chris. So for me, when I did that, and then I talked to Gary Vaynerchuk, and I realized if a veteran, and this is why I'm big on entrepreneurship, if a veteran gets out of the military, starts a company, starts a 501(c), starts a podcast, they're much less likely to commit suicide if they know that, like I tell everybody, at the end, guys, I will see you tomorrow. I know that people are looking for me tomorrow. If people have a big mission, they're less likely to take their own lives if they have a mission bigger than themselves. So that's when I started on the podcasting, talking about entrepreneurship and stuff like that. So what are you guys' thoughts about trying to get veterans when they get out of the military to either become an entrepreneur, start a 501(c), start a podcast, just find something that they're passionate in, to have a passion again? What are your thoughts?
Me personally, I think that's the way to go. You're just you're not gonna find things run as smoothly as they did ever when you were like when you were in the military. Shit ran smoother than it's ever gonna fucking run ever at work, because not everybody at work gives a shit about their job like they did in the military. There's a lot of warm bodies out there that literally just show up enough to get a paycheck, and they check the fuck out, and then that leaves you, the hard worker, doing 6 or 7 more different things. You're gonna resent your boss. You're gonna fucking hate your job. Go work for yourself. You know why? Because you know you can get shit done. You want to go cut some grass? I mean, we got a buddy up in Buffalo, New York. He runs heavy company lawn care. Heavy company lawn care, I think it's. But either way, it's he's killing it up there because he works for himself. He sets his time apart so he can make time for his family, which is huge. First and foremost, if you're doing anything in that aspect, always make time for your family, because they sacrificed a lot, and even if they weren't together with you at that time, they still sacrificed a lot for putting up with some shit that they weren't even together with when it broke. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that's the way to go. I've tried it a few different ways myself. I actually do cut grass here in North Dakota. The 3 or 4 weeks a year we get grass to grow. um, but yeah, it's actually snowing right now as we speak. Um, so yeah, I mean that's me for sure. I'd say yes. Go about it. Find your niche. Find whatever works for you, and definitely do that shit, man. Don't let anybody tell you or second guess your shit. It's cheap as fuck to get an LLC. Um, if you don't know anything about them, YouTube University is the best school going right now.
Yep.
Sit down and just listen to people talk about money and talk about running a business. I did that all day today, and I got a full brain of stuff that I got to pick through and figure out what's more important. But
And, that's why I think people love this podcast, because not only do I have veterans, I've have some guy that came on the show. His name is David Meltzer. If you ever watch Joe to the Bottom, he's got a you had to run a business. I mean, millionaires and billionaires come on the show to teach veterans you can start your own business. This is how to do it. This is how to market. This is how to brand. And I think a lot of veterans don't know where to turn. And I think that's why our show is a little bit different, because we have all types of people that talk about stuff like that. So, KZ, what is your thought process on, because I think if we make shitty employees, because in the military, you get your work done, you go home. So you bust ass when you have to bust ass. But it's time to go smoking and joking. We're not hanging out in the mud pool. We're down in Killeen. You know what I mean? But it seems like when we get out in the civilian world, they get there at 9 o'clock. They're at the water cooler for a half hour, take an hour lunch, and then they're out by 4 o'clock, and there's more shit to be done. And you're like, wait a minute, there's still shit to be done. So, what are your thoughts on entrepreneurship and getting out of the military?
I think, I don't have any personal experiences myself, but I will say, you, betting on yourself is always the best bet for one. But the fact that you're a service member and betting on yourself, I think you have all the keys to success as a veteran. You were in the Army. We had those 7 Army values that we were drilled in from day zero, from basic training. Loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. All that stuff is built into you. That makes a perfect CEO of any company, right there. You could run your own ship right there. So I think it's a great idea for any veteran, every veteran, to at least entertain the thought of being an entrepreneur once they get out. Because no better person to bet on than yourself as a veteran.
All right, so then I also got another question to ask, because I've been out since 2012. You'll never see me wearing any kind of Army gear. You'll never see me wearing an Army hat or none of that. And a lot of times like when somebody just asked me recently, well, what do you do? I don't even think, I'm a disabled retired vet or whatever. I say I'm a podcast host, I'm a speaker, I'm an author. So I think a lot of people hold on to that military shit for too long,
Yes.
and they don't become successful in their civilian world because they try to have a foot in both sectors, and you really can't. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
There's, I'm not going to lie. I was that guy for the first 6 years of my life after the military. Have had one foot in the door, always looking behind my back, looking in the past, which you shouldn't do. And, just comparing everything to the military, but you can't do that. I think, a healthy tip for all veterans out there is, regardless of how many years you served, 4, 9.5, 24, it's a chapter. That's all it is. It's just a chapter of your life. Don't let that chapter define you. Is it a good chapter? It should be it is. It was the best chapter of my life professionally, but it doesn't define who I am. So, I mean, yes, I totally agree with you. You can't be successful and hold on to that army or to that military persona forever.
Kyle, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like KZ said, I mean, I've often, I mean, I'd say, been that same kind of way. Oh well, I've done this, so oh, you should almost feel, and I didn't even hate to say it, but it's like it's true. Sometimes you almost feel like shit's owed to you because of, and I feel like people get really easily fall into that and never get themselves out of it and realize like that's not why you joined. That's not why you served. That's not, you served because you were called to serve, or you served because it was either that or jail, or you served because you didn't have shit else to do that day, so you wound up at the recruiters, and you don't like to say no, so you fucking wound up in there. But like he said, it's a chapter. Life, as with everything, is shit comes in waves. It's a what do they say? Let the waves wash away the past, basically. So you got to move on. We had a thing, where KZ had talked about letting go in one of our episodes, and I mean, I think about that since the first time he said it. When we first recorded an episode, just letting go of that shit is huge, and it can really drag you down if you don't. But it can also have the reverse effect if you do. It can launch you. It can put you in places that you never thought you'd be, like sitting in front of your computer trying to help anybody you can, just because at one time you may have needed that help. And, here it is. Here we are. That's
All right, so now we're going to talk about my second favorite subject, which is podcasting. I've been doing it 3 years. I think so far we've had up 750,000 downloads, 2 million impressions or whatever. But
I think we got like 300.
but it's fun, But what it is for me, it's I found a new passion, and I found something fun to do. But I've listened to like I said, I've listened. If your podcast numbers have went up, I'm taking credit because I've listened to every episode, and and a lot of people don't realize podcasting is fucking work. It's everybody thinks I'm going to start a podcast, I'm going to make a lot of money, and they don't realize it's fucking work. You got to put in work.
You don't just sit down and start podcasting. It's definitely, you got planning.
I mean, I'm on episode 600 and something like that. But for you guys, a lot of people don't realize if you make it past your 10th episode, you're in the top 10% in the world.
Really?
Let's go, baby.
Because the average podcast lasts 10 to 14 episodes, and there's over 1.2 million podcasts out there, but only 40% of them are active. So if you stick with it, you guys are going to be in the top 10%. I think we're like in the top 0.5% or whatever. But like I said, podcasting is work. Doing graphics, doing editing, and all this stuff, it's work. So tell us about your experiencing, just the last couple of months, just starting a podcast. What was that like?
So me and him are both kind of like those. We're kind of those all in types, you know. So we started this thing, and we both right off the bat had to tell ourselves like, yo, you know, hold it back. We're trying to dive into this thing, and then it quickly consumed everything we were doing. I just all I wanted to do was post content and honestly, like I think what it boils down to is we believe in our product now. Like you said earlier, it was a huge thing for us is the consistency. Is like people are looking forward to listen to us now. There's at least 3 people out there that look forward to hearing from us whenever we got something to say, and that's enough. That's more than enough for us to keep going. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was a, it was, yeah, it was a wild ride. I mean, Kyle hit it spot on at the beginning there. I'm a very once I attach to something that I like, I quickly get passionate about it, and it kind of consumes my life a little bit. That's why for the longest time, sounds kind of childish, but that's for the longest time. That's why I haven't had like a game console because I like gaming, but I also need to work and support my family. So I haven't had that in my life forever because I know if that was in my life, I couldn't balance it too. Anyway, that's how I felt about podcasting when we first started. I didn't want to. I told Kyle, I was like, "Hey, this is a great idea. You know, let's do this, but let's take it step by step because if I go all in, I'm gonna be off balance and off kilter, and I need to be balanced. But it's been a wild ride. You know, just it like yeah, it is work. I mean, we didn't record today because we're lucky to be on your show today. But you know, most days it's I work 8 to 10 hours a day, and then after that, I hop on the podcast. We record. You know, the same thing with Kyle. Kyle's a stay-at-home dad. He's with his son. 12 hours a day, and then he goes downstairs, and then we record. And then on those off days where, I'm you know, we have everything on social. We have all the accounts on social media, putting all that content out there, just so our message can be heard. It is a lot of work,
And
and
then reaching out to people too. That's a huge one that people don't know about is connecting to other people and getting other people to come on the show. It takes time. Like we're sending people messages we haven't talked to in forever, and just being like, "Hey, do you want to come talk about your mental health with us on our podcast?" And surprisingly, literally everybody's like, "Fuck yes, I do. Thank you." So I mean, like, yeah, it's work, but I mean, at this point, like, as long as we're setting it up, we've now set it up to the point to where it's not too much work for us. We could still be consistent, and then we could just really just have as much fun as we want with it right now.
we're learning too.
And I didn't even realize that we're in the top 10% just for keeping going, because I mean we don't have any plans to stop, and we don't care if there's 1,000 downloads an episode or if there's two. We're just gonna keep going, and I think that alone is gonna be like what something will like if people are learning about us right now, is going to learn one thing is like we're gonna keep going. No matter what, the mind is the mission isn't just what we say on our logo. It's what we do. It's what it's how we live.
And
It's how we try
and as
to
long
live.
as you stay in the game, like for me, I don't even look for guests anymore. Everybody sends me guests, so I don't even look for guests anymore. Um, but it's kind of like I'm turning down NFL players. Because I'm like, listen, General Petraeus wants to come on Friday. I can't have you come on. I got GP
Uh,
coming on. You
Heck
know,
yeah,
but it's like when you're in the game long enough and people know you, you don't even have to go out looking for people anymore. Because now they're going to be like, man, I heard you on that podcast. Can I come on your show? And I think once, like you said, you start putting out episodes on a weekly basis, you guys, there's no way you guys can't lose. And as long as you know your why, you
yeah,
know, that's the most important thing in podcasting. Like my mentor is Mr. John Lee Dumas, and he gets 1 million downloads a month. And he's a tanker, by the way. And I had him
yeah.
on the show. And the only way I got him on the show, because he's a millionaire, he lives in Puerto Rico, he's living a dream. But he lost the tank crew in Iraq. And nobody ever asked him about losing the tank crew and having to deal with mental health issues. That's why he came on the show. So I think
Do
eventually
you
when you
think he'd
guys,
be
like,
interested?
like for me, I had to, really niche down to find out who my perfect avatar is. Like my perfect avatar, I got a picture of my phone of some random family. It's a father and his wife and 3 kids. Because my perfect avatar, his name is Craig, is a 45-year-old male, father of 3, veteran, brand new business owner. So that's who I talk to every time I have you guys come on the show. We're talking to Craig and about Craig. And I think once you find, like, you guys already know your why. So you're ahead of 90% of the podcasters, because a lot of guys and girls get in the game because they think they're going to make money, but they really don't know their why. There's going to be months where you think you're going to have a great downloads and nobody listens. And
Yeah.
then you're going to have somebody you think nobody's going to listen to and get 2,000 downloads. So it's kind of like, but if you know your why and why you're doing it, then you can't lose. There's no way to lose. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, and the podcast community is really helpful too. We've, I mean, not only you, I think, I think it was you use the Calendly app. Is
Yeah,
that
he
you?
was the one. Yep,
You're the
oh,
you're the
getting
reason why we
that.
use it, because you sent us a link. I was like, wow, this is amazing. We need to use this for our guests. And then so off the bat, we're learning from other people who do podcasts who are very successful. And then we had a guest a couple nights ago, Eddie Lowry. He has his own podcast, Off the Deep End, and just he's been very helpful. Allowing us to pick his brain, and he's been telling us about all these the emerging veterans and players organization, all that stuff. Like the podcast community it's kind of wild how helpful everybody is.
It's
Yep.
so
And like I said,
supportive.
if you guys ever need anything, I got your back. I actually teach podcasting courses. So if you guys ever need anything, 100% free, 100% of the time, I got your back. I'll do whatever I can. So
I'm
tell
ready
us a
for you
little
to
bit
take
about
me
your
to
podcast,
Business
where we
University.
can find it, and how do we get in touch with you guys?
Well, first and foremost, we're like Casey said earlier, we're on all the social medias: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We got you can if you want to reach out to us to any of those, always feel free to. I mean, Casey's constantly pumping out some cool reels and stuff from our videos. We post through Spotify, so our Facebook, our episodes go up with video to Spotify, and then I think, we got the list right here. I mean, it's on all the major platforms through there. So I mean, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Castbox. I mean, we were told that our Spotify is the one. If people want to hear it on a different platform, feel free to message us at veteranchatproject@gmail.com and tell us which podcast platform you want us on, and we'll be there by the end of the day, guaranteed.
Yep, like I said, tell
we want to be
everybody
where
that
you're at.
I'm on Spotify. I use Anchor to put my podcast on there. But 98% of the people listen to their podcasts on iTunes. So make sure that you're
Yep.
getting reviews. Like we got almost 500 reviews on our podcast. So make sure you're getting reviews on your podcast, because that just kicks you up into the algorithm, and it's free.
Oh,
Everybody that comes on your show should be reviewing your podcast.
heck yeah.
And I think that's why I think I showed you in my Calendly. I actually ask you guys to leave a comment. That's why I said I'm going to ask you guys when we log off. I'm going to ask you to leave a review. So
For
that
sure.
actually helps, and it's
Yeah,
free.
I can do that.
And it's free.
I was a little concerned because you're an old tanker that the favor was going to be like a weird picture or something.
No.
No,
No,
just
but
kidding.
I appreciate you guys. Like I said, I love every episode you guys had. I've listened to every episode at least once, some of them twice. I think you guys are doing an amazing job, and I'm so proud to call you guys brothers and fellow tankers. I never knew you guys were tankers until
Dude, it's so
this.
small world, the tank community, isn't it?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
always wind up meeting up with each other. I feel like, yeah, tankers. It just thick-skinned, small community.
Well, I appreciate you guys. So make
Yeah,
sure
man.
you guys are watching this. Make sure you check out their podcast. Make sure you check out their Facebook pages because I mean I can just message Kyle and boom, I get a message right back. So they're
Instantly.
very active and they're there. They're not some social media superstars. They're actually going to be there if you have questions. And if you guys are struggling with mental health, leave a comment below and they'll actually get back to you if you guys have any questions. And I'm sure you guys would be willing to do that.
Of course.
Absolutely. Anytime. Like
All
I
right,
said, reach
guys.
out on
I
those
love you
platforms.
guys. And guys, as you know, like my t-shirt says, today I decide, guys, you get to choose to be the victim or the victor today. And hopefully you choose being a victor. I love you guys. And I love you guys so much. And remember, vertical momentum, the only way to go is up. I love you guys. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Casey, Kyle, brother, it's been an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you so much. Thank you.
Have a great week.
You too.